In Chapter 2 of Kagurabachi, we learn the truth. Chihiro's father forged 6 enchanted blades, and every one of them has been stolen. His legacy shattered. His death currently unavenged. And now the hunt begins. This chapter isn't about flashy fights, it's about grief, legacy, and the moment a boy transforms into a blade. Let's break it down. Chapter 2 is called Heaps, and boy, does it really reflect exactly what that chapter's name is. We begin exactly where we left off, with Shiba untying the gentleman that they just saved from the anti-Korogumi Yakuza movement. And he looks at him and he says, well, man, that must have been rough. Guy's like, well, thank you. Who are you guys? Shiba's like, I'm Shiba. And then it cuts straight to Chihiro right where we left him off, with a blade at the throat of the Yakuza clan leader, and him saying, I don't care if they're monsters. I have to cut them down. So it's really just leading off right where we left in Chapter 2. And then it closes a close-up of the Yakuza clan leader, and I'm basically like, get this blade away from my neck. Shiba says, there you have it. Got that, scum? Seriously, dude. You better listen to this guy, pointing at Chihiro. And he looks at Chihiro and goes, got you. I'm here for support. Chihiro's like, okay, Shiba, let's try to back off a little bit. Chihiro looks at the Yakuza clan member and goes, all we know about the Hishaku is that they emerged 4 years ago. Shiba's in the background saying, yeah, that's all we know. Chihiro again states, rumor has it, they're a small elite group of sorcerers, but we can't be certain. He's like, yeah, it's too bad that we can't be certain, says Shiba. Chihiro kind of looks at him and is all like, bro. Shiba's like, you don't need me chiming in. Little thought bubble pops up, and Chihiro's like, yeah, I haven't needed you chiming in at all. Such a beautiful like back and forth, where you get this bad cop, but the one bad cop's like a funny comedic side character to kind of add a little laughter to such a serious scene, because Chihiro's truly looking for the people that killed his father. So this is a really serious scene, but Shiba, also being Kinoshuge's best friend, it seems, is like there to really help out in this situation. Chihiro looks at the Yakuza clan member and says, tell me everything, as Shiba walks away. And Chihiro states, you tell me everything that you know about the Hishaku. The Yakuza clan leader says, fine, what's with this guy? The Hishaku. And then all of a sudden, you see the clan leader's face explode slowly as vines are starting to rip out of his face. And before that scene, Shiba's looking at the gentleman that they just saved, and he's all like, why don't we get some fresh air, buddy? And Chihiro's like, yeah. And then again, it cuts back to the Yakuza clan leader's face exploding, and Chihiro's like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's unleashed from this Yakuza clan leader's body, and they start attacking Chihiro. These vines are a callback to the bonsai tree that the Hishaku sorcerer was trying to interrogate and strangle the gentleman that they saved. And Chihiro yells at them and says, run, you two, run. And she was like, what's going on? As Chihiro's in the background slicing and dicing up these vines. And the guy that they just saved is like, oh God, here I go. It's gonna happen again. I'm gonna die. And she was like, no, you're not. And he holds up his sword fingers. This is the two fingers pointed upwards, pointer and middle finger, with holding your last two fingers by the thumb. That is a sword mudra, by the way. So usually in your sword fighting skills, you hold this in your opposite hand of your sword. Well, right now he's using that sword mudra to do something. And it seems like he's activating Shiba's own sorcery. And then the next scene, we see Shiba teleported outside. So Shiba sorcery, one of his powers is teleportation. And the guy he just saved is like heads on the floor, body keeled over, and he's like, sorry about that one, that was a little rough. Are you okay? And the guy's like, oh, what's going on? How did that happen? And he's all like, oh, you're in shock. It's cool. That's a kind of sorcery. I guess, most sorcerers in the big city, and since you're a small town guy, you probably don't really get to see a lot of that. But more importantly, he looks back. Chihiro, how you doing back there? And Chihiro's like, oof, man, that was close. I took care of it. Yeah, how's the guy? He's like, he's fine. He's just a little queasy. That's good. Thank you. Says, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Chihiro states, it happened the moment he started to talk about Hishaku. Shiba states they must have put a spell in his body. They're thorough. I'll give them that. Still, though, the scale of that sorcery is kind of crazy. Chihiro states that sorcerer is definitely a high level. So that sorcerer was gone and has been gone for a little while, and he was able to activate that sorcery from a far distance. So it seems that the Hishaku sorcerer with the flame tattoo on his hand was able to impart one of his spells upon the Yakuza clan member, kind of without the Yakuza clan leader even knowing. And then any time that Yakuza clan leader would divulge anything that he knows about the Hishaku, that spell would be activated. Wild. And it cuts to a scene over how you see the Yakuza clan leader's face distorted and pulled apart, dead bodies everywhere, vines everywhere, blood everywhere. And then Shiba looking at Chihiro like, hey man, I think we'll go back to Tokyo. And Chihiro's like, yeah, I'll catch a ride with you. And so Shiba must have teleported him to Tokyo. I don't know, we don't really get to see. But then Chihiro kind of stumbles. Shiba's like, hey man, easy now. You burned up a lot of energy today. Still, and then Shiba narrates, only 3 years ago, the kid had zero combat history and experience at all with a sword. Yet he hasn't even unlocked the enchanted blade's real potential. And so that's really impressive so far. He's come so far in such a short amount of time. And then what we get is a flashback scene. And the first 3 panels at the very top are an alarm system on top of a tower. And then you see Kunishige Rokuhira's home with a barrier around him, a protective magical barrier around it. And you get the narration by Shiba stating, Rokuhira's workshop and house were protected from the outside by a magical barrier. It was configured to alert me to any interference. So that day, I rushed over. And so we get to see that Shiba was the first person to be alerted that something happened at Kunishige Rokuhira's home. And so we kind of maybe, so it kind of seems that maybe Shiba's other sorcery power, that he has the ability to create magical barriers as well as transportation, but we don't know that for sure. And you get a little scene where it seems like he just teleported in and Rokuhira's home is completely devastated. We get Chihiro sitting on his knees. We get Chihiro on his knees next to his father, who is bloodied and battered and seems to be dead. Definitely is dead. And Shiba's face is just in utter terror. And you get to see Chihiro in utter terror as well, standing next to his father with a sword in his hand. Shiba runs over to see how Chihiro is doing, and Chihiro says, Mr. Shiba. Shiba's like, what on earth just happened? Chihiro clutching the sword that in his one hand as he is holding his father in the other. And you see Chihiro state, there were 3 sorcerers. They just suddenly appeared. I blacked out, and when I came to, and you get in that manga panel, you get 3 sorcerers around Kunishige before they killed him. One of them looks like he's wearing, maybe all you get to see is his leg, but it looks like it's the samurai gear. Then you get another sorcerer that we've never seen before, as well as in the background, it looks like the sorcerer with the Hishaku tattoo, the braid down his shoulder with that hat on. We've already seen this Hishaku sorcerer, interesting enough. We turn the page, and then we get another narration by Shiba. It's, during the war, Rokuhira forged 6 enchanted blades and sent them out into the world. After the war, he retrieved them all and hid them in a cellar underneath his home. And we get a picture with complete devastation of that cellar and all 6 blades gone. And Shiba stating that exact thing. They're gone, with just complete and utter astonishment, and he's like petrified. And he looks at Chihiro and he's like, well, at least you're okay. You have got this wound. And they're talking about the wound on the side of his face that we get to see now when it's in the present day. This wound that Chihiro, this scar that Chihiro will never get rid of, because it is a memory of his father's death and the vengeance that drives him on a day-to-day basis. Chihiro states, nothing, it's fine, I'm fine. We're in a flashback. And we get another flashback where it's Kunishige, the father, speaking to his son. And he states, these are the enchanted blades, as he's pointing at them in the cellar as they're still there. They each have a special power. Chihiro's like, the kind of katana that I should try to make? Kunishige's like, well, maybe, but let's be honest. I need you to listen. These aren't necessarily the right answers. And he's talking about the 6 enchanted blades. These blades aren't the right answers, maybe. You can't just start making strong enchanted blades. You're going to have to look at the world through your own eyes and then think carefully about what the world needs. Think carefully what kind of katana it needs, and also why. He then goes on to state, I ponder that every day. Slowly but surely, we'll learn to do that together. Chihiro's like, yeah, okay, Dad. But Dad, and then it cuts to a little comedic humor again. The dad is wearing a shirt that says, yay, it's sunny, with a sun on it. And he's all like, probably if you're going to talk about such serious topics, I need you to wear more of a serious shirt because it's hard to take you seriously right now. And I was like, well, I thought you thought this was cool. Again. And then all of a sudden we go back to an image, half-page panel image of the father's face, bloodied, battered, and he is dead. And then Chihiro, you get the lower half of his face, and he's bawling right now. And he states, who are they? Do they know how much Dad cared about the katana? Damn it. And you turn the page. All of this, why? As we see the home utterly destroyed. And then another manga panel. We get a callback to the father-son duo. Within a fishbowl, 3 fish flowing around them. One red, one black and one tri-colored. And it's more of the fun times. And then another callback to the fish in a broken home, completely destroyed. And Chihiro screaming, crying with blood streaming down his face. Why? Chiba states, I'm so sorry. If I'd only gotten here sooner, how did they even find this place? And Chihiro, images of what just happened that he was able to see before he blacked out. A fist with a flame tattoo on it, the Hishaku symbol. Chihiro's eyes flickering with tears streaming down them. They have to know, as he clutches the sword, what Dad believed in. I will show them, and I will cut them all down. Again, that cut them all down. And then that's the same thing that he's telling the Yakuza leader. I need to know about Hishaku. I need to cut them down. This is great writing. He's really calling these things back and forth. And then you get another narration. The katana Chihiro wields is the one Rokuhira spent years completing after the war, and he gave it his life to protect, the seventh one. As we get a scene in the present day, Chihiro looking sullen, deep in contemplation, deeply reflecting, with N10 at his shoulders. He states, since that day, there's been no reliable information about the Hishaku or the enchanted blades. Just when we finally had a lead, at this very moment, someone could be using its dad's swords for evil. I have to find the Hishaku and the enchanted blades as soon as possible. And I think this calls back to the duty that Chihiro feels about what his father was trying to instill upon him. The spirit of the katana, the soul of his father imbued into all of these katana, his work, his duty, and the two lessons that his father was trying to instill upon him: responsibility and accountability. We have to take the responsibility of every sword that we make, and we must imbue them with a kind of power that can help and save people. But we also must be accountable for every person that these katanas' lives take, because we are the makers of these swords. So we must understand and have a duty and diligence, honor, legacy, and the will of the warrior. We get a panel right after that next little scene about Chihiro speaking about needing to find Hishaku and these enchanted blades, because Chihiro really feels like he must avenge not only his father's death, which is really important to him, but gather these 6 blades that are out in the world, because these 6 blades are now going to lay waste and slaughter innocent lives, because there is no great war currently going on like the father created these blades for. These blades were given to individuals that the father chose, it seems like. So Chihiro now must bring these 6 blades back. It's like Chihiro must bring pieces of his father back to the home so that these swords don't cause more chaos. And that is the responsibility and the accountability that Chihiro has, and the legacy of Kunishige Rokuhira. The beautiful scene that we get next is, like I was saying, is Chihiro staring into N10, the blade that he just slightly unsheathed, as we see beautiful bits of water floating off and 3 fish carouseling around this blade. In the background, we get the moon. The moon signifies the mystery in most mythological and ancient traditions, the mystery of the feminine, the mystery of the magical society, the mystery that a being must walk into the world and unfold his plan, unfold the experience into the unknown. And to walk into the unknown, you must have the correct tools and the correct character, so that when you are confronted with chaos, you have not only the ability, but the right mind to take on that situation. And then we get a little scene where Shiba's walking in, and then we see that they're in Tokyo. Chihiro, you're awake. And as soon as everything's ready, it's time to go. Chihiro's like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, we just got to Tokyo in time. We finally have a lead. There's been a sighting of the enchanted blades as Chihiro is looking into the sword, and all we see of his face is now determination. So first we saw the sullenness of his face, the despair, the existential angst, and now we see his eyes hone in with purpose and drive, as again, these fish are carouseling around N10, the blade that was made specifically for him, that his father's last will and legacy given to Chihiro lying on his deathbed. Chihiro snaps shut the blade into his sheath and says, let's go. And then we get a cutscene to a new character. Over a desk, a bright, shiny teenage girl with a smile on her face. In the background, we see a sign with the hand of the Hishaku's tattoo on it. on the back, and it says Hishaku, information wanted. Interesting. And then it's this girl breaking the fourth wall, looking at you as the reader, stating, "Oh, welcome. Have you been to Tokyo before?" And then she kind of lays down the environment of Tokyo. As known in Japan as a katana society, it's legal to carry them for self-defense, the katana, and they also make the world more dangerous at the same time. So you can carry katana in this world in Japan because Japan's a katana society. But obviously with these swords around and then there being sorcerers everywhere, it's kind of dangerous. She states that's why the leaders of the Yakuza gangs and big corporations hire sorcerers kind of to make stronger self-defense measures, quote unquote. Then that's where these guys come in. And that's basically what her job is to find or to have sorcerers connect them with the Yakuza mafia and big corporations. And you get a little cutscene of kind of wonky and crazy sorcerers all over. And she states that there are thousands of sorcerers in Tokyo, which is more than any other place in Japan. And her job is to connect those parties. And then she is talking about the sign behind her, the Hishaku information wanted. And she's like, this is a request from a regular. And then in pops Shiba, 3 years earlier than the modern day moment. And he's all like, hey, how's it going? We get a name, Hineo. And she's like, oh, not bad. What have you been up to? And he's all like, oh, this and that, here and there. She's all like, okay, so what'll it be? So it looks like Hineo has been connecting Shiba with jobs since the war. It's kind of what we're gathering from this. And he's all like, hey, have you ever heard of the swordsmith Kunishige Rokuhira? And she's like, of course I have. And he's like, well, did you know that he was murdered? And she's all like, yeah, I was really shocked to hear that had happened. And he's like, well, yeah, it's this group named Hishaku has claimed that murder. And also I heard that they stole some enchanted blades. So he's kind of playing stupid. Obviously he knows what happened, but he's kind of fishing with this, the girl about like what she knows. And he's kind of laying down like what he needs her to do. And cause she's like, oh, well, what about it? And he's like, well, actually, then we get narration again. That was the first time I learned that Mr. Shiba was connected to Kunishige Rokuhira. So obviously that Shiba to her that, this is what happened and this is what I know and this is what I need you to do. And then we get a scene of just Chihiro staring, scar on the side of his face, determination in his eyes. So it's a nice little callback of like what is going on and why. Legacy, Chihiro, avenging his father, collecting these 6 katana. And then all of a sudden it comes back to today, the modern day. She states, after I heard the story, obviously I agreed to help. And then being a teenage girl, she's like, oh, I'm so bored behind this desk. And then all of a sudden, ding, ding, a little doorbell or whatever rings as somebody walks through the door. And she's all like, welcome. And you see an image of a little girl, about 6 to 8 years old, with like a serious, sad, afraid face. End chapter. So let's do a slight chapter summary. We get a lot of backstory in this chapter. It's not your everyday action, what's going on. We really get to just see how strong the Hishaku are, these sorcerers, even just the one that we've witnessed. He has the ability to enact a spell from really long distance or impart a spell onto somebody that can completely rip them apart, even if they utter the word Hishaku and try to divulge information. And so this is a spell that reacts to intention, really, that we can see because of he just said Hishaku. Who knew that he was then going to give up any information, but the spell did. And it was activated by then this Yakuza clan leader going to tell Chihiro and Shiba about the Hishaku. So supposedly the society of sorcerers does not want anybody to know about them. Then we get, after that happens and Chihiro needing to cut down these vines, we get to see Shiba's sorcery, kind of 2 things. We see him again teleport this guy that they just saved, as well as a flashback. We get 2 different flashbacks in this. The first flashback is we get to see Kunishige, Chihiro's father, attacked, laying dead on the ground, his home completely destroyed, a magical barrier broken into somehow by this Hishaku organization, 3 sorcerers coming after these enchanted blades, Shiba arriving right away, teleporting the instant he realizes this, but everything has already happened. So these Hishaku 3 sorcerers must have did quick work getting these 6 blades, killing the dad and destroying everything and then leaving. We get to see a father truly showing a son that creating these enchanted blades isn't the true purpose. You don't just create blades with such power and sorcery for nothing, just because, for utility. You do it because you have a duty, we have honor, and we have the warrior spirit, the true code of Bushido. We also must understand that along with not doing this just for utility, just to create such such weapons of war. We do it because we have a responsibility and we must take accountability for everything we do. So we survey not only the world, but our own spirit and soul for what is needed in these times, which is such a beautiful thing to impart into your son. And so really what we're seeing is such tragedy. Kunoshige is gone, the forge is wrecked, the 6 enchanted blades stolen. The scene is quiet, but it's heavy. Shiba's face says it all. Regret, failure, grief. He wasn't just a bystander. He was supposed to be there for his friend and the sun, and now all that's left are ashes and memory. We jump back to the present. Chihiro reflects on that day, not with rage, but with stillness. That's the key. He's not lashing out. He's focusing. He's sharpening his resolve. He sharpens it just like he sharpens his blade. And meanwhile, the search for the Hishaku, the group responsible for the attack, somebody new, Hineo, a girl behind a shop counter. She's not random. After Kunoshige's death, Shiba placed her there to watch, wait, and gather intel on the Hishaku. She's been working in the shadows ever since. So the title really calls back Heaps. It echoes loss, heaps of bodies underneath Chihiro that he is just carving his way to avenge his father and find these 6 enchanted blades. Heaps of regret, heaps of emotional weight. This isn't a loud story, it's a heavy one. The silence in this chapter says more than action ever could. Shiba, this friend and companion, has got regret, and he's got this failed guardian archetype. Shiba's role is deeply archetypical, mentor or guardian who fails to protect the master. This isn't just about vengeance, it's about guilt and the long road ahead for Shiba. Then we get 6 enchanted blades, legacy as weapons. When Kunoshige forges those swords, it's not just an act of smithing, it's spiritual. In myth, blades like these aren't just weapons, they're vessels for memory, intention, and soul. Take the biggest Japanese myth about swords. Maybe not the biggest, but the biggest that really moves me and I think has moved Japan mythology for a long time. Muramasa, the infamous Japanese swordsmith. His blades were said to be cruel, so bloodthirsty. They drove their wielders to madness. Whether fact or fable, the point is a sword can carry the temperament of its maker. And what we really see in this Muramasa myth is that yes, Muramasa, the swordsmith, may have been crazed as well as, insane or mad, and he imparted that spirit into these beautiful Muramasa swords. But there also is Masamune, the swordsmith with such grace and honor and duty. So 100 years before Muramasa, you get Masamune. His swords knew exactly who to cut and when. They just didn't cut things unwillingly. They did it with grace and duty and honor, just like Rokuhira. Muramasa, on the other hand, with his bloodthirsty swords, every time those swords were unsheathed, they had to take blood, whether it be somebody in front of them, like an evildoer or a good person, or if there's no way around to cut, it must take the blood of the wielder. I think these 2 swordsmiths in Japanese history really reflect the different personalities that we're going to find in the story. Masamune really is more of a Kunoshige Rokuhira kind of character, a loving swordsmith who put accountability and responsibility into his blades. And Muramasa is everyone who takes on these blades that wasn't meant to have them. These blades become a legacy of death and destruction instead of a legacy which is supposed to be something of honor, duty, and the warrior spirit of the true code of the samurai. So I think we're going to see this kind of unveil throughout this story, this Muramasa, Masamune style of mythology. And then to kind of continue on the different mythologies of the world, you get the Norse mythology. Dwarven blacksmiths like Sindri or Broker crafted weapons of the gods. Thor's Mjolnir, Odin's Gungnir. These weren't tools, they were divine artifacts, shaping fate itself. And then the last is in the Greek myth Hephaestus, the god of the forge himself, created the armor for Achilles and Zeus's lightning. His volcano forge was both womb and weapon, creating instruments that defined myth. So when Kunoshige dies and his blades are stolen, it's not just robbery, it's desecration. These were blades forged with purpose, perhaps even his very spirit, and now they're in enemy hands. The deeper question, what happens when Chihiro finally reclaims them? Will they serve his will or will they shape it? Then you get Chihiro's stillness, the dangerous kind of stillness. Chihiro's silence isn't just numbness, it's control. He's not your typical shonen hothead like Luffy or Naruto. This is cold fire, like Guts from Berserk or Itachi from Naruto. Chihiro is all focus, no wasted movements. This makes it more dangerous than a loud declaration of vengeance. And then we get Hineo, the watcher behind the counter. Her appearance is brief, yes. We'll probably get her for the next few chapters, who knows how long, but she's very important. She's been embedded since the day of the tragedy. Watching for signs of the Hishaku, she's not just a side character, she is surveillance. Shiba's long game, so to speak. And then this tells us that it isn't just a story about swords, it's a war of information as well. Little backstory of Hineo and her name is that in Japanese it means sunlight or sun's rays, and more importantly in the Shinto religion, the sun goddess Amaterasu. Yes, the same Amaterasu that we hear about in Naruto is revered as the source of light and life. The name Hineo is associated with this deity and symbolizes the sun's power and warmth. Interesting enough then, Hineo, as we see her right away, she is bright and warm, and just as the sun does, shines light in the darkness, in the dark places, like the Yakuza, like the sorcerers, like big corporations, like the Hishaku. And just by the way, just so those who don't know, Shinto is Japanese indigenous religion, often called the way of the gods. It's characterized by a deep reverence for nature, the belief in kami, spirits, or gods, and it focuses on purity and harmony with the natural world. Shinto practices include shrine visits, rituals, and festivals with no single sacred text or doctrine, at least that I can find currently. We'll see throughout my studies. And I think it's about time we try to define the name of this manga, the title, Kagurabachi. It combines Kagura, meaning the sacred Shinto dance to honor the gods, with bachi, meaning a vessel or bowl. But in Japanese, bachi also sounds like the word for karmic retribution. So even though the kanji means ritual vessel, the name suggests something a little more, a crucible of divine retribution, embodied in Chihiro's enchanted sword, his father's last creation, Enten. So, chapter 2 is the calm before the storm, but it's kind of a calm that cuts deeper than just a battle. It cuts into the soul of what is going on. We're not just watching a revenge story unfold, we're watching a myth being born, a legacy corrupted, a blacksmith's soul scattered about the lands, 6 stolen blades, and a son standing in the ashes, preparing to transform into something else. As Chihiro sharpens his path, the world sharpens around him. Stay tuned for chapter 3 coming soon, because the hunt is just beginning and the swords aren't the only things that are enchanted. If you like this breakdown, please give it a subscribe, a like, and a share, and hit that notification bell for the next chapter and all the other stories that we break into. Thank you for watching Magus in the Media.